Hello and welcome back to the course on Tableau. Today we're talking about clustering. So as we know, we have our cities here visualized and we can see the revenue, whether it's high, whether it's low, that is told by the color and the size. We can also even highlight the new ones, these 10 new ones, but we can't really tell from here which ones we should invest to in terms of marketing, which is the best bets. So we can probably say that this one has a low revenue, but at the same time, this is not really a storytelling visualization. So let's proceed to creating a storytelling visualization. We're going to create a new sheet, and here we're going to actually visualize revenue versus marketing spend. So revenue is going to be our y-axis and marketing spend is going to be our x-axis. And as you can see, we only have one dot here, so we can either disaggregate these dots, or better approach is to actually use the store ID in detail to change the level of granularity. And we already know how all of that works in the background, so that's always exciting to understand what we're doing exactly. And as you can see here, we've got some points on our scatter plot, and in total we have 150 points. So you can confirm that if you check on the bottom left, in the bottom left corner. And what we are seeing here is every single city in our data set, we're seeing the revenue versus the marketing spend. So maybe let's just make these a little bit bigger. That's a great start. That is awesome. And already from here, we can tell that there's at least, there's two distinct groups. There's a group of cities over here, which are kind of performing quite okay. And then there's some cities here that are not performing as okay. And why is that? Well, here we've got marketing spend. So as you move from left to right, you're increasing the marketing spend. You're spending more and more. And here we've got the revenue. So you would expect that the more you spend on marketing, the more revenue you get. So for instance, to start with, if you take two cities, for example, you take this city, it's or the store in the city has got an ID of 48, or the city, this location ID is 48 basically. So marketing spend is $2,000, revenue is $16,000. And if you take this city here, marketing spend is $3,000, nearly $4,000, revenue is $56,000. That makes sense, right? So when you increase your marketing spend, you expect more revenue. But then this city, for example, doesn't make sense, right? So you have a city here which the marketing spend for is $1,800 and the revenue is $19,000. And this city, marketing spend is $3,900. So more than twice as much. So this was 1,800, this is 3,900, but the revenue is still $19,000. So if we're talking in terms of trends, then these cities, they might be sharing a certain characteristic that they all kind of like, they're all stuck at this $20,000 revenue level. And regardless of how much you invest into marketing, it doesn't really change anything. So if you invest more, you're not getting more return. Whereas these cities here, you can see that there's an obvious trend. If you invest $2,500, you'll get somewhere around 40,000 revenue. If you invest $3,500, you get somewhere around $60,000 in revenue. So as you can see, there's two distinct groups, and we can actually visually see them. So that's always a good thing. But how do we now identify them analytically from a statistical point of view? And this is where clustering comes into play. If we go to the analytics tab on the left here, and we scroll down, you'll find this option for under models, which is cluster. And that will allow you to cluster or create clusters, identify clusters in your visualization. So let's go ahead and try it out. We'll drag it onto the chart. And that's it. So right away, you can see that the variables used are sum of marketing spend, which we have over here, sum of revenue, which is also over here. So the variables that are building our visualization, just by using them, Tableau is applying an algorithm called k-means clustering, and it is right away building this visualization for us. Now, it's a very quick way to derive very powerful insights. So from here we can tell right away. So Tableau grouped all of these into one cluster and grouped all of these into one cluster. And it's quite intuitive, right? So exactly what we spoke about, we just didn't think that these would fall into that cluster. But Tableau is using information that it has on a marketing spend. So these variables to identify which are alike, which of these stores or cities are alike that they can be put into one group. And it turns out that these are all alike and these are all alike. So they're kind of like very close to each other in that sense, just by looking at this visualization in terms of distance, right? So we can see that these, if you're going to identify two groups, then this is how Tableau suggests to identify them. Now that's a great start, and we can already derive some insights from here. We can say which cities, depending on which group you fall into, your city falls into, you're either deriving a good return on marketing investment or a not such a great return on marketing investment. And for instance, we can check our cities that we have. So if we go back to data and we look at new expansion, put it into detail, and then we show highlighter. So now I'm just going to bring the highlighter to the left. Now what we can do is we can just look at the new cities and you can see them being identified there. So you can see that we've got two cities in the lower group and we've got all these other cities in the better group. So this is some preliminary clustering analysis that we've performed, and right away we can tell from here that probably it's better to invest into these cities rather than into these cities because the return on investment is better. But at the same time, what we can see is that this is probably not the final step in our clustering analysis, because we can see that these cities, they don't look exactly that they belong to this group, more so they look like they belong to this group. And in the future tutorials in this section, we'll learn how to refine our clustering analysis even more so that it is more sophisticated and it's telling an even better story. Now, I wanted to mention as well that don't worry if this looks a bit complicated right now or something that you haven't encountered before. That's totally expected, that's totally normal. In the coming tutorials, we'll get more used to this concept of clustering and identifying these groups. We'll talk about some trends and you'll see exactly how we'll derive the analysis. For now, what is important for us is just to understand how to perform this clustering analysis, how to create these clusters using the analytics pane, and going forward, we'll be much more comfortable, get much more comfortable with this whole concept. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial and I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, happy analyzing.